when finance broke the map. It didn't happen with an explosion or a single decision. It happened gradually, as lines that once made sense began to lose meaning. Borders blurred, centers shifted, and London discovered that finance, once anchored a place, was no longer confined by geography at all. For centuries, money had followed maps. Trade routes connected ports. Jurisdictions defined authority. Distance imposed limits. But as London's financial systems grew more abstract, those constraints weakened. Capital learned to move faster than ships, faster than law, faster than control. The city was no longer just a location, it was a network. To understand why this mattered, we must return to a time when geography still shaped power. Proximity meant advantage. Being close to markets, courts, and information mattered. London thrived because it sat at the center of these converging forces. But the very systems that strengthened the city were about to dissolve the importance of center itself. The reveal came when transactions began ignoring physical distance altogether. Deals were structured across jurisdictions. Obligations spanned continents. Risk was sliced, packaged, and distributed globally. A decision made in London could ripple instantly through markets thousands of miles away. The map no longer reflected reality. This shift unsettled authority. Laws applied unevenly. Oversight lagged behind movement. Power no longer aligned with borders. Those who understood the network thrived. Those who relied on geography struggled to respond. London had helped create a financial world that no longer fit on any map. And once finance broke free from place, the rules built to contain it would never work the same way again. As finance escaped geography, London's influence both expanded and weakened at the same time. Capital flowed through the city, but it did not stay. Transactions passed through jurisdictions faster than oversight could follow. Authority became fragmented, divided across borders that finance now ignored. This created opportunity and confusion. Firms structured deals to exploit differences in law. Obligations were shifted to favorable regimes. Responsibility became difficult to assign when outcomes crossed multiple systems. The map that once guided regulation no longer matched the terrain of risk. Tension grew as governments struggled to respond. Each jurisdiction acted independently, reinforcing local rules that global finance simply routed around. Coordination lagged. Gaps widened. The network grew more complex, not less. London, once a clear center, became one node among many, powerful, but no longer singular. Markets adapted faster than states. Capital learned to anticipate regulation and move ahead of it. Structures emerged designed not to break rules, but to slip between them. This was not rebellion, it was optimization. The system rewarded agility over accountability. Crises exposed the danger. When shocks hit, responsibility blurred. Losses appeared everywhere and nowhere at once. Authorities argued over jurisdiction while capital moved on. The absence of a clear map turned response into negotiation rather than action. London faced a dilemma. Its success depended on global reach. Its stability depended on governance tied to place. Finance had outgrown both. The city could not retreat into borders, but it could not ignore them either. The world was entering an era where power belonged not to territory, but to coordination. And London would have to decide how to operate in a system it helped unleash, but could no longer fully control. The conflict sharpened as the gap between financial networks and political borders widened beyond tolerance. When a major shock rippled through global markets, its path ignored every jurisdiction designed to contain it. Losses crossed continents in seconds. Accountability stalled in committees, and courts that moved far more slowly. London felt the strain acutely. Firms headquartered in the city were entangled in obligations scattered across the world. Regulators demanded answers they could not legally enforce. Partners pointed elsewhere. Each authority claimed partial responsibility and total limitation. The map had fractured into overlapping claims with no clear center. Public confidence began to erode. Citizens questioned how power could be so mobile, yet consequences so localized. Governments absorbed losses while capital reorganized itself and moved on. The imbalance fed anger and distrust. Finance appeared untouchable, not because it was secret, but because it was everywhere at once. Efforts to reassert control multiplied. Agreements were drafted between states. Standards were proposed. Coordination bodies emerged, promising shared oversight. But alignment proved difficult. Each jurisdiction protected its advantage. Each feared losing competitiveness by acting alone. The network exploited hesitation. Inside the city, tension grew between those who benefited from mobility and those exposed to its risks. Some firms thrived by navigating the fractured map. Others suffered under conflicting demands. Stability required cooperation, but cooperation required trust that no one could guarantee. The breaking point came when delay itself became dangerous. Without shared response mechanisms, uncertainty lingered too long. Markets reacted violently to silence. The absence of coordinated authority became a risk factor in its own right. London confronted an uncomfortable truth. Finance had not just broken the map. It had revealed that no single map could ever contain it again. The future would depend not on redrawing borders, but on learning how to govern movement itself. The resolution did not come from restoring borders, but from rethinking authority itself. London, along with other financial centers, began shifting focus away from territory and toward coordination. Power would no longer rely on where finance happened, but on how systems responded together when it moved. New frameworks emerged slowly: shared standards, crisis protocols, information channels designed to operate across jurisdictions rather than within them. These mechanisms were imperfect, but they acknowledged a new reality. Finance could not be pinned down, only guided. Stability would come from alignment, not control. London adapted. The city leaned into its role as connector rather than commander. It became a place where networks met, where rules were negotiated, where coordination was practiced rather than imposed. Influence flowed not from dominance, but from participation in shaping shared norms. This shift restored balance, not certainty, but resilience. Shocks still traveled quickly, but responses became faster. Accountability remained complex, but no longer absent. Finance continued to ignore maps, but governance learned to follow movement rather than resist it. Looking back, the lesson was clear. When finance broke the map, it did not end order. It demanded a new kind of it, one built on cooperation, transparency, and constant adjustment. Power no longer belonged to those who controlled space, but to those who could sustain trust across distance. London helped write that future, not as a center of gravity, but as a point of convergence. And in a world where money no longer stays put, that may be the most powerful position of all. So what do you think? Are we repeating the same mistake again? When